Hi, hi, hi. Actually, I don't think I will stream today, but I actually do, which is amazing. But realistically, I will not stream more than 30 minutes. Like, is it even a stream? Like, I mean, by my standard, it is. But for a day, I mean, currently, I mean, it's really a problem, no? Like, what do you mean? By the way, isn't this nice? I actually made this today. I mean, it can do some work, but I'm quite happy with it actually. So yeah, wait a minute. Let me test something. Okay, it worked. I don't know. Hmm. So today we are playing Genshin again, which is crazy. I'll just do my daily and then I don't know. Actually, I don't think I'm doing anything other than that, which is I don't know. Okay, let's get to it. Maybe I know. Hey, and have you noticed this? Look at that. I updated my frame a bit. Now my signature is a bit more pronounced, which is quite amazing. It's crazy actually. But yeah, streaming is really not my strong suit right now. I mean, I have trouble speaking English and such, and my stamina is not as good when I need to talk all the time, but I'll get there eventually. Just need practice, right? Just need practice. But it's okay. Alright. Genshin was in my second mentor just now. I need to fix that. Um, but I really need to quit wasting time. But no, wait, first procrastinating. I think that is called. I don't know. Anyway, is someone actually friend with me? Oh wow! I just complained about yesterday that I have no friend. And someone? How weird. How weird. I still have no friend though. No friend. I have no friend. This girl also. That's yeah. We need fucking what is it called? Whopper flower. I need whopper flower that is crazy. I hope this one have whopper flower though. Yes, I need it. I don't have enough drop from whopper flower. I don't know for what character though. I actually forgot. Hmm. Hmm. What am I doing? Wait. Oh no. Yes. Can you hear that? Yeah, I don't know. what is it called? You know what I mean. Or maybe not. Don't care. I don't care actually. Oh no.
Committed to memory. This may turn a little
Shit.
pouty. Stand with me.
Okay. Now put flowers though. Crazy. I don't know what happened. I don't know which leyline happened, but I guess not my day.
Time to go. Into the wind. As one with
What
wind
is
and
this?
cloud.
What?
Committed to memory.
Hey.
Grow.
Wind strider.
Stand with me. This may turn a little.
What are they doing that? Oh my god. Well, it's crazy. I don't have my resin max out.
Shower me with praise.
Max out? I don't know. How do you say that? I mean, I don't really care anyway, but it'd be good to know. I think. Maybe. Probably. I actually don't know what came over. Go through the fucking noise gate from any video. Dude. It's called. Oh no, I forgot. Here. What to farm? Wrong. I guess. Let's go. This one again. I needed for so many characters. So yes, will do good for me.
Strike a pop.
Fallen leaves. Adorn.
Committed to memory. This may stop. This may turn. Our bond is strong. The show begins.
Yeah.
How
Wait.
brilliant!
Is this other? Okay. I don't know that.
Committed to memory.
As one with wind and cloud.
Out of my way!
I don't know that Regina is at her state after Commander. I mean, probably that should be it. I mean, that should be how it is. But I didn't expect. I just didn't think it would happen.
Shower me with praise!
You know?
Wind Strider.
And I need to really put in the hour, you know. I need to probably tomorrow I will stream all day maybe. I wish. I mean I'll just probably that actually excited me a bit. Maybe I can do that.
Committed to memory.
But what do I stream though? I mean I can stream Victoria too. Or not like I'm playing it, not like I will play it or anything, but I will play it if I can stream it. That's kind of more fun. But other than that, I really don't know what to say. Not gonna lie. I mean,
Our bond is strong. This may hurt a little.
Clouds high. The birds call. Wind Strider.
maybe having a second home screen will not be better. Maybe I'll stream doing that. I should probably stream everything though. That's no point not to. It's probably good proxies anyway. Hey, and I'm done. Look at that, how fast. Really fast actually. That's really nice. Maybe I'm doing Explorer, but that's unlikely for tomorrow. I don't know. But what? I mean, I can just
Add
do a
astro-
revision for
Thank you for.
my first home screen, but I mean, it's pretty nice for my standard, that is. I like it. I mean, maybe can do some work, but other than that, it's pretty nice. I just realized. It's still mirrored, huh? Okay. I see. Actually, what am I pointing at? You just don't know what I am pointing at with my cursor, right? If you can see it. I mean, you can see it now, but when I was in the home screen, you can. So that's kind of weird. But I was referring to the chat frame actually. So I think I'm
Time to
done.
go.
Like only 13 minutes stream to.
Time to go.
Let's go see. Maybe I'll fix my. Maybe I'll fix it. My home screen. I mean, like. Do you look at that chat stream, the chat frame? I mean, it's still mirrored the colors. I mean, is it preferable then? Do I still want it to have the same color, or do I want it to be different? I think, but the background is different. I think, not mirrored. I mean, I can see it. It's hard to see. I mean, but I don't think it's the same. So yeah, maybe I'll change that. And that this screen at the top. I mean, you can see what what I am putting in. Can I just capture only because of it? Um, I don't know. I mean, it's weird. Hmm. It's weird. Mm-hmm. I'm just checking. Wait, I can open up Hongai and add 5 minutes to the stream. That's such a good idea. Wow, I never thought about that, and I need to check if the capture is the right scale anyway. So that's kind of win-win. That's kind of good. And I've been moving this all time. That's good. There it is. Actually, it's the right side, so maybe hit the screen. Okay, it's the right side, so maybe right there. That's happening. Okay. Na, 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 na. I mean, actually, I just realized I've been low energy this whole time. I probably didn't hear it because that's how I usually do, but that is such not a good content now that I realize about it. I need to up my energy a bit, dude. Like, what do you mean? It's probably not enjoyable being such a low energy all the time. But I don't know, hitting this noise just activated my brain again. I've been on autopilot for the last, I don't know, probably, well, I don't know actually. But now I'm a bit more wake up. So I don't know if I can keep this up, dude. It's kinda exhausting now that I'm doing it. And it's not even good. Not even enough. I mean, I mean, there's, there should be, there should be a point. What am I trying to say? I don't know. Wait, look at how close I am from getting Sparkle done, dude. It's so close. But, I don't know. I want Sparky then. Foxy. But you know, I also need this arm. This I've been it could be better, but I kinda had that I quit
I think
farming
it's a
the
shame you weren't.
yeah.
The last time I
But that's it. I mean yeah. Wait a minute. I probably don't want to do any farming right now. But I wanna test my sparkle again. If the game If the game work, that is. I mean, what? What? Hello? The game is working. Wow. Wait. I forgot to put maybe? No, I didn't. So yeah. Don't want to farm Primogen, but let's do this. Let's do this, I mean. Let's test out this. Last time I think I got 4 cycle. I mean, I thought that I would get 1 at 3 this cycle this time. But actually, it's still impossible for me. This team not that good. Not that good from my build at least.
A will of metal.
Watch this.
And I can play with it. Maybe let's try autoplay and then see how well I do against that, okay? I just wondering if I suck that much. Can this thing really?
Earth shatters, heaven trembles, mountains roar, dragons rise! Soaring above the lands, this is permanent!
Why is it lagging so much? Do you guys also probably, right? That is whatever.
Feeling spiffy? Can you find the answer?
Let me check actually. What is my bottleneck? I mean, I think it's my GPU, right? Obviously. I mean,
Bad omen. Don't thank me. Observe the heavens with my divinations. Test of luck. An explosive start.
Earth shatters, heaven trembles! Soaring above the lands, this
this
is
is
permanent!
permanent. Okay.
Like that.
One cycle is consumed.
Bad omen. Don't thank me.
But I don't think.
Feeling spiffy?
I just don't. Oh shoot, that's kind of bad. That's bad RNG for the
Can you find the answer?
Oh yeah. Wait, I can't check.
Test of luck. An explosive start.
But I don't actually.
Soaring above the lands,
I don't actually
this is permanent!
wait for this much longer, so I don't think it's necessary to change the category.
Observe the heavens with my
category, I mean.
divinations. Bad omen. Don't thank me.
Yeah, it's still one cycle.
Feeling spiffy?
That's it. I mean, consume one cycle. I don't think they will one cycle this, but
So, it's now or never. Can you find the answer?
Soaring above the lands, this is permanent!
interesting. So close to 3 cycling, I think. I don't think it's possible
Test of luck. An
with this
explosive
thing.
start.
I mean, and I don't think. I mean, would other team do better? I don't think so.
Freeze to death.
Like probably
Eternal
no,
flame
like
will bury you.
maybe Paimon can do better.
Feeling spiffy? So,
I wanna try that
Death in
actually
eternal
after.
winter.
Soaring above the lands. This is permanent!
Okay,
A bad omen. Don't thank me. Clouds have scattered.
is it possible? I'm starting to think it is, but
You find the answer.
shit.
Mountains roar. Dragons rise!
Back off.
What's Parko? Let's get like that. I don't get it.
Observe
kinda
the
waste.
heavens with my divinations.
I don't think it's gonna 2 cycle,
Test
so
of luck. An explosive start.
interesting. Okay. I don't think Brunei is killable.
Soaring above the lands. This is permanent!
Maybe. Oh no. Oh no. It won't happen. That's so close then.
A bad omen. Don't thank me.
It's actually so close.
Feeling spiffy?
Wait, oh my god. That is so stupid. God.
Onward!
This cycle actually could be possible.
Test of luck. An explosive start.
Can you find the answer? Like that.
Interesting. I wanna try that. This cycle may be possible.
By the great one above, such formidable evil.
Did you guys hear that? There's firework nearby. I kinda hide on.
A will of
Watch this.
I wanna
Oh,
try.
Vivian.
Oh, I mean, we probably
Stars favor us.
earth shatters.
interesting.
Heaven trembles.
That's everything about it.
Dragons soaring above the lands. This is permanent!
I mean, we should kill this the orange guy first.
Let's play for a while. Feeling
That's what I'm
spiffy?
thinking anyway. We can scale him with an ult. No, maybe? No, maybe. I mean, we could scale here.
Let's put. Can you find
Ult
the
Annie.
answer?
Okay. Yeah, we can. We probably should ult earlier, but interesting. How much though? I'm just wondering. How much does Parker recover?
Explosive start.
Like 8?
Did that hurt?
No, that's 9. So 5. I just need
People always observe
one
the
free
heavens with my
skill point.
divinations.
Just that's actually interesting.
Bad omen.
It's probably
Don't
the
thank
best
me.
play. Interesting.
My strength isn't what it was. Dragons soaring
It's
above
kinda
the lands. This is permanent!
Okay. Okay, that's unlucky again, so kind of fair now. We know. Not fair. Wait, why do I out? That's kind of bad play. But I don't think I need to heal him right now.
Troublemaker.
I just get skill point and for the next. That's kind of good actually. Yeah, he's there. And the cycle is like a timer.
Plug. An
Or
explosive
no.
charge. Divination says this will hurt.
I mean, it should probably.
Stars favor us.
Now I can just out immediately.
Let's. Can you find the answer?
I used to wait for it to. But I don't think that's necessary.
My purpose is to protect.
Interesting.
Now or never.
Dragons soaring above the lands. This is permanent!
Let's play for a while. Feeling spiffy?
That omen. Don't thank me.
Okay.
People always observe the heavens with my divinations. Pass the plug. An explosive
Is it possible? I mean, I don't think so, but I can be wrong. Come on, die. Okay.
Back off. Did that hurt?
Okay.
A world devoured by ice. Witness the avalanche.
That's bad. My guy.
That omen.
That
Don't
is so
thank
bad.
me. Formation.
Judgment of eternal winter.
I'll go easy this time.
Interesting. Do I I think I do I? That's only
Can you
reasonable.
find the answer? Feeling spiffy?
Dragons soaring above the lands. This is permanent!
I think this is perfect. I don't actually know. I'm kinda bad at this game.
Cloud has gathered.
I don't think Opalia died.
Stop right there.
I need to be better.
I mean, is it possible?
Pass the plug. An explosive charge.
I mean,
Dragons soaring above the lands. This is permanent!
Troublemaker. I'd like to be.
Let's play for a while.
I can break, but that's kinda unnecessary. Let's see. Fuck, that's... Okay. Let's cut away. I think it's possible, maybe.
Back
Yeah,
off.
it's possible.
People always observe
think
the
it's possible.
heavens with my divinations. That omen. Don't thank me.
I'll go easy this time. Feeling spiffy? Can you find the
I
answer?
think she's dead. Please speak. Okay, that's so weird. Wait, she's so dead. Okay, actually the cycle is possible. That's news to me.
Like this.
By the great one above.
I'm so focused, I
Formidable
forget.
evil.
Wow, the cycle. That's kind of crazy. But let's see final maybe. Maybe final can do better. Maybe don't need the target at all. I mean,
A will
I don't have set it yeah,
light up the dark.
and suboptimal. But I wish I get a thing.
Earth shatters.
I mean, I'm close to BD, so I wish I don't lose my 50-50 next time.
Dragons soaring above the lands. This is permanent.
This will watch over you and guide
Guide
you
you
on
on
your
your path.
path. Doubt farewell.
Existence is but a
Just,
future.
alright.
You'll pay for this. Lend me your
Pay
strength.
about it.
Tomorrow!
We've entered the storm. To guard and defend. Crush
Yeah.
them.
I think so high. Why do I have 100
Feel the scorch. Hail the new
I mean, probably because the server is far away from me,
never
but
yield to fate.
why do I kill?
Quench the flames of blood.
Which character first? I mean, Painon is
Agony.
Bezel's Painon, probably not that good right now, but
Feel the scorching hatred.
I mean, can he recycle though? Can he recycle?
Hail the new dawn. The flames are not strong.
I don't think this is for him.
Is that all?
Maybe it's not for her.
All stars burn to ash.
I mean, this is my song scene, so I'm just curious to see how it would. Well, that's kind of so bad. That is so bad.
Dragons soaring above the
That is
lands.
so bad, dude.
It's permanent.
I would reset, dude.
Lend me your strength.
No
Yeah,
other
it's so
choice but
bad
forward.
actually. I reset it.
That looks like a tough one.
A will of
Let me test
Show
I
your
mean,
courage.
first. A day of peace.
If I am a bit more lucky, maybe I'm winning. Or maybe I'll just
heaven
focus
trembles.
this guy inside. I don't think that's a good idea though.
Dragons soaring above the lands. This
Probably it is. I mean, I will break him
Watch
with
over you.
Painon anyway,
Guide
but
you on your path. Heard the call. Wanted to doubt farewell.
Existence is of no consequence.
probably target this guy.
Lend me your strength. We've entered the storm.
Fuck, what am I doing?
To guard and defend. Crush them.
No other
I mean, it's still there, right? I mean, it is still there, but... Okay, probably that's good play, maybe. Unless I lose. Unless... Oh. Where is it? Where is this? It's good, it's good play. Wait, do I? Wait, hold on. It lasts 2 turns, right? Where do I come? Where is it? It lasts 2 turns. Why am I so concerned? So this should be dead. Wait, actually, that's kinda good. Look, that's so close. Actually, I think Painon is so much better. That's crazy. Almost zero cycle the first phase. That's crazy. That's
Never
crazy.
yield to fate.
Actually, I wanna try to get out.
Is that all?
Formation.
Let's try that again, dude. Is that my Maxwell or what?
Looks like
A
a tough
will
one.
of
Show your courage.
Test the waters first.
Let's see. I probably skill bot right.
mountains.
Bot before he forms from. So probably attack this first. Get that
Dragons soaring above the lands. This is permanent.
Get that sail.
Watch over you.
Get the
Guide you on your
boost.
path.
And then
Head down, farewell.
Existence is of no consequence.
kill this first. And then
Lend me your strength. We've
Oh.
entered the storm. To guard and defend. Crush them.
kill this guy next. That's so weird, you know. Please.
Tear the sky!
Oh my god. This might be cute. This might be. Please. Die, please die. That is so weird. Do I kill? Oh, damn it, okay. Oh my god. That's it. That's how we do it.
Will of
Show your
Touch the water source.
So close. Oh my god. I need to record it.
shatters. Heaven trembles.
Wow. Just wow.
doesn't fall.
Dragons soaring above the lands. This is permanent.
I mean, I should have ordered before he attacked, but
Guide you on your
that's
path.
kinda whatever.
Heard the call. Serenity is before me.
No other choice but for tomorrow.
Please, first.
This battle is unavoidable. Lend me your strength.
Please.
We've entered the storm. To guard and defend. Crush them.
Existence of future will come.
Let's be enough.
Tear the sky!
I attack. Do I do this? Early. Do this? Do it to the fuck. Probably not right. It probably doesn't deal that much damage. If I'm guessing.
The flames are not hail the new dawn.
Interesting. Wait. Oh my god. My luck is so much worse. It's so bad. I mean, is it possible? How is
Looks
it
like a
possible?
teleporter.
Fuck, that's not what I want.
A will of
Enemy situation has
The
changed.
day of light up the dawn.
I probably can just change my relic a bit and do.
mountains roar. Dragons
I
rise.
don't. What? Okay. Probably attack this
Dragons soaring above the lands. This is
and then get this.
This
Okay.
mortal foe.
Watch over you. And guide you on your path.
I think the
Serenity is
first
before me.
kill should be on this guy instead.
This battle is unavoidable.
And then the
Lend
next
me your
one
strength.
No other
We've
choice
just
but
to wait.
To guard
Okay,
and
it's
defend.
fine.
Crush them.
I thought I don't have enough for flame for some other reason. I don't know why would that be the case, but wait, is the game too loud? Can we even hear me?
tear the
I don't know. I'll check that later.
I'll never yield to fate.
I break it. I break them anyway, though. Probably. Interesting.
Hail the new dawn.
Ah, so close. I mean, not close. Not close at all. What the fuck? Wait, let me change. Let me see if I can do something with my relic. I mean, my turning is such suboptimal. That it's so suboptimal. Only 3,000. Oh my god. He probably doesn't need all that speed, right? I'll just give him so much attack. Just so much. I mean, that's it. That's kinda it. I don't have any other pieces. Yeah, it's kinda fun. Not gonna lie, what the fuck. I literally don't. What? This 135 probably is not enough, but only when. Oh my god. I'm having. What? Probably this better. Barely increase. So I guess I'm going back. The old build. To my final. There's not much room for upgrade, right? That's kinda crazy. It's kinda good. I mean, this is okay. Attack and never mind. And this is crazy to just don't have upgrade. But then maybe I'll try. I'm not just shading it no more. Probably it's the same side. I just don't think I will play this too long, but this is really unupgradable actually. So what is that upgrade? Maybe my Sunday. But it's, I don't think that's upgradable. 11. I mean, this could be no. What am I saying? No. How about this? It's whatever. Nothing either. Did much weight HP? Yogong. But Yogong have it though. Why still? Why still for me? I mean, you don't need that much. Die. Come on, Yogong. That's probably so minimal though. How about my Bronya? 28 is good. Okay. 23. What? How? I don't remember getting this relic. It's boosting, but I don't need speed actually.
Do you
Or
want
her.
to enter?
Please let me see the cycle to first faster. That's all I need. That's all I need.
A will of
Show your.
A day of peak light up the dark.
That's really all I need.
earth shatters, heaven trembles! Dragons soaring above the lands! This is permanence!
Interesting.
This will watch over you and guide you on your path. To doubt farewell.
No other choice but forward. The future will come.
You'll pay for this. Lend me your strength.
Lend me
entered
your
the storm.
strength.
To guard and defend. Crush them.
Existence is of no consequence.
Maybe I'll try just to fuck with this one first. That deals so little damage. Did I not crit?
Hail the new dawn. So without substance.
This toy is kinda annoying, not gonna lie.
Sun tear the sky.
If only dude. Oh my god.
Quench the flame's blood.
Maybe it's possible.
Is that all?
I don't think it's possible. Yeah, it's not. What the fuck? Wait, what? But it was so close.
That looks like a tough one.
Last time, but come on, please.
Test the waters first.
Just let me know if it's possible now. I wanna know.
Mountains roar, dragons rise!
I mean, I won't cycle the whole thing, but
Dragons
anyway,
soaring above the lands. This is permanent!
it's quite interesting for me.
This mortal foe watch over you and guide you on your path. I'll overcome the thorns. Serenity is before me.
Yeah.
Future will come.
Lend me your strength
And
We've entered the storm.
right.
to guard and
I mean,
defend.
this is my last try. Yeah, so please 1.7 million. That's good, I think. But I didn't break. But probably. Is it better if I don't break? I don't know.
I'll never yield to fate.
Wait, it's good that I don't break him. That's kind of better.
Tear the sky.
Oh my god. You get. No, I need to do that again. You get me.
That looks like a tough one.
Show your courage.
Test the waters first.
What was for my first two attempt though? It was so close.
Rise!
Did I create all the time in that one? I
Dragons
mean,
soaring above the lands. This is permanent!
Watch over
so probably I'm just wishing that Kanon didn't break him so early so that he didn't spawn the minion. I think that's the play now. Wait, I think I know the play.
You'll pay for this. Lend me your strength. We've entered the storm.
I think I focused the blue guy all the time
Crush them.
so that I didn't break
Tomorrow.
him too much. Okay.
Hail the new dawn.
Oh, 1.9. That's a
So with its
okay. Actually,
flames are not
only 300.
tear the sky.
Oh my god. Is this? Probably not. Oh god. Oh god. What am I doing?
That looks like a tough
I
one.
don't think it's possible.
Let me test
Show
the
your
waters
courage.
first.
a day.
Light up the dawn.
Well, let's try again.
Earth shatters heaven!
I didn't see the damage at all.
Dragons soaring above the land.
Take a care about the damage maybe. Or am I stupid? Or is this possible?
Watch
Is this-
over you and guide you on your path. To doubt farewell.
Existence is of no consequence. Future will come.
Is this possible or not? Or am I having skill issue?
Lend me your strength. We've entered the storm. To guard and defend. Crush them.
Tomorrow.
200.
Hail the new dawn.
Okay. 1.9. Actually, I wanna test this maybe. Probably bad idea, but probably a bad idea.
Quench the flames with blood.
It's a bad idea.
Her agony!
Wait, that's more. That's more. But it's break. I mean, is it good?
Tear the sky!
Wait, am I stupid this whole time? No. No, fuck. Okay, that's the play.
That looks like a
A
tough
will of metal.
That is the play. That is the play.
light up the dark.
Do I do that again? Or is...
Mountains roar. Dragons rise!
Do I W again after that or what?
Dragons soaring above the lands. This is permanent!
Come on.
Watch over you and guide you on your path. Heard the call. Serenity is before me.
No other choice but the future will come.
I don't think
This battle is
that
unavoidable.
is a little
Lend me your
damage.
strength. We've entered the storm. To
Come on.
guard and defend. Crush them.
Come on.
Existence of no more tomorrow.
Okay. Is that good? I don't see it.
Hail the new
Anyway. This 1.9, that's kinda low.
I'll never yield to fate. Quench the flames
Okay.
with blood.
Please.
Is that granted with strife?
Oh, that's so low. That's so low damage.
Tear the sky. Quench
Do I do this again?
her agony.
No, that's actually that's kind of fun. I don't know which
A
one
will
to.
of metal.
Test the
Show
waters
your
first.
Actually, I don't know.
Light up the dark.
That's probably not doable either way.
Dragons soaring above the lands. This
What am I
is
doing, dude?
permanent!
This is fine.
Watch over you and guide you on
I'm
your
so
path.
focused actually, so what the fuck? It's probably so boring for other people if they watch this, but
Down farewell.
for me, it's so fun.
Future will come.
You'll pay for this. Lend me your strength. We've entered the storm.
Let's see.
To guard and defend. Crush them.
No other choice but for tomorrow.
2k, 200k. Interesting.
The flames are not strong. Quench the flames with blood.
Let's see. Can it hit 5,000? 500 I mean?
Granted with strife.
No, only 4,000. 400.
Tear the sky.
Wait. Is he dead? He's dead. Oh my god. I've done it. He's a psycho, that guy. He's already did this game.
Blood. Is that all?
Now or never.
Oh my god, he's so good.
Her agony.
Okay, never mind. I mean, that's pretty good.
I'll never
Good
yield.
damage.
Hail the new dawn.
Again, maybe.
Quench the flames with blood.
Stop right there.
Freeze to death. Witness the avalanche.
Granted with strife.
37.
All stars burn to ash.
Okay.
My purpose is to protect.
Wait, Bronya is dead? How come? And why is Coca-Cola here? Is he here? Or am I having him? Do I? What? No. I think I'm mixing up the damage.
Dragons soaring above the lands. This is permanent!
Judgment of eternal winter.
Existence is of no kind. Future will come.
Moment to doubt farewell.
Tomorrow.
Wait, Bronya is so
You'll
dead.
pay
What
for
the fuck?
this. Lend me your strength.
Can this two cycle it? No, it can't.
My strength is
What? That's right, if this two cycle it.
Tear the sky.
No, it probably won't. I mean, with only one people. No, oh my god. Wait,
The flames are not strong enough.
oh my god, so close.
So without substance.
I mean, not close at all, but this cycle is pretty good.
Quench the flames of blood. Is that all?
Freeze to death! Witness the avalanche!
Is that all? Her agony! Feel the scorching hatred. Sun tear the
Interesting.
sky.
Why is my final dealing so little damage? I kinda hate this.
All stars burn to
Okay,
ash.
so we won't get weapons like recycle, but at least I still cycle the first battle, so that's nice. Anyway, I think I'm done. Interesting. I really don't wanna farm. So let's chat for now, but yeah. I'll just wait for, I mean, I'll just wait. For Monday, then they more, and they. That's, yeah. Oh my god. I mean, this is such bad slow for me. Can you tell me where can I get this at? I need to know. Which one I'm missing? Like, let's see. 27, right? 27-0. 27-0. 27-0. Interesting. This is probably the for I'm missing 1-3. 1-0. I mean, is it from this? If it's so that's probably not. I mean, this is it. I haven't done Canada. It seems like it actually. That's 100. That's 3. That's 30. So yeah. I think I'm farming this. Actually. Getting the last 270, which is okay. That's good. Sorry, my dear. Actually, probably would be better than playing League of Legends, but I wanna play that, and I want to make such a waste of time, dude. What do you mean? Oh my god.
Just like the golden years.
Just playing League of Legends and getting demoted. Crazy. Permalosing. Stick all the time. Lovely, dude. But at least I have fun. I actually have fun, but at what cost, dude? It takes so long, dude. It takes so long to have fun. Maybe one game. So let's see how much one game becomes, dude. Totally a predicament. I will never stream league. I will never stream league. It's horrible that if I stream league, I give myself permission to waste much more time. So much more time. I will never give myself permission to stream league. Not because I'm sucking at it or anything. I swear I'm good. I'm kidding. I'm so bad, but I just one game. Maybe one game. Maybe 10. Maybe 10. No, please stop. I'm begging you. You can't do this. You can't just wait. It's been 1 hour. That's so much more than I expected, not gonna lie. I thought it was going to be 15-minute marks to like playing. Title is kind of fun. The cycling, that too, piece of shit is kind of fun. I don't know why I call them piece of shit. It's not like they've done anything wrong to me, but I just don't like them, okay? It's just interesting assessment. I mean, I don't dislike them. I don't dislike them, and I'm not liking them. So I'm neutral, but I don't know what I'm saying anymore. But playing Honkai Star next time, probably. Next time will be fun. That's fun. Okay, bye. Bye.